Hi guys, welcome to one more video and thank you so much for watching. All of you that follow me on YouTube speak English. Some of you are native speakers, but most of you learned English as your second language. So did I learned it in school, I assume you did as well. Why did we all have to learn English in school? The main reason is because English is called a world language, it's considered a world language, and by many linguistic experts, it is considered as the only world language nowadays. The main reason for that is, of course, the economic and political power of British Empire in the past and USA nowadays. Without English, you cannot hope to get a good job. There is no way you can travel internationally and really enjoy your trip if you don't speak English. English is a requirement for basically everything nowadays. It is also the only language in the world that has way more non-native speakers than native speakers. But English was not always the language number one or the world language. Before English, this position belonged to French. French used to be considered the world language or the language of politics, economy, diplomacy, somewhere from 17th century till the middle of 20th century. The main reason why English replaced French is that after World War II, USA emerged as a global superpower, a global leader, the most powerful country in the world, and it influenced basically everything. French stopped being language number one, it became probably language number two, and English became a language that we all have to learn in schools. Something that many people don't know, but in post-communist countries, I'm coming from one, English started being taught in school only in the 90s or early 2000s. So for example, my parents' generation, people in their 50s, didn't used to learn English in school. That's why if you ever travel to former post-communist countries, you will notice that many people over a certain age don't speak English, but they might speak French or German or probably Russian as well. But nowadays, I have to say that I'm very grateful to USA and English language for being world language nowadays, because since I'm not really French lover, French has never been my cup of tea, I don't know how would I survive in a world where you have to learn French. So thank you USA for giving us English as the new world language. And if you have ever been wondering why French people don't like English or don't like speaking English, it's probably because English kicked them out from the place of the world language. They were perfectly fine with their French, but then someone became a world superpower, and now French people have to learn English. I understand why they don't like that, but what can you do? Now many people are wondering, is English going to be a world language number one forever? Is someone going to take over and become world language number one in the future? Many people are arguing that it might be Mandarin Chinese, and this is something I have been listening to for like forever. I remember starting high school, that was when my love for languages developed, and many people were telling me, oh, you should start learning Mandarin, this is going to be the language of future, China is becoming very powerful, and so on. It has been almost 15 years, and I still don't see Mandarin becoming a world language, and in today's video, I want to give you a few reasons why I think that Mandarin is definitely not going to replace English when it comes to being a world language. So the main reason, and the most obvious one, why I think that Mandarin is never going to replace English as a world language is the fact that Mandarin is way too hard for literally everyone. It is hard for Europeans to learn, it's hard for North and South Americans, it's hard for Africans, and it is also very hard for Asians as well, other Asians, other than Chinese. Can you imagine an average person who is not that talented for languages learning Mandarin? I can't. Many people nowadays are struggling to learn English if they are not good in languages. It is hard to learn a new language, and let's compare how hard is English to how hard and complicated is Mandarin. This is the main reason why I think that Mandarin is never going to take a place of English. I can see that it's becoming more and more popular. I can see more people learning Mandarin Chinese nowadays than 20 or 25 or 30 years ago, but I definitely don't think it is going to become the language number one or the main mean of communication internationally, mostly because of how hard it is. It is hard even for native speakers, considering the number of signs they have to learn to be considered literate. So I don't think that foreigners will ever be able to learn it on a level that's enough for basic communication. Another reason why many people believe that Mandarin is going to become the world language is the fact that it has so many speakers. It is true, Mandarin has way more native speakers than English does, for example, but the question is, how many of those native speakers are you going to meet and talk to? When English became the world language, which, as I said, was in the middle of previous century, USA emerged as superpower, UK was already kind of a superpower, and you could probably meet a lot of people from those countries traveling around the world. So if you were, for example, working in tourism, you would meet a lot of Americans, a lot of people from UK, from Australia as well, so you kind of needed English. On the other hand, China is definitely an economic superpower. They're becoming stronger every day, and there are many negative consequences of that, which we are not going to discuss today. But an average Chinese citizen or an average Chinese person, is their life becoming any better because China is becoming a global superpower? Do you see more average Chinese people traveling around the world? I don't think you do. That's why I don't believe that Mandarin is going to be on the same level as English, because due to Chinese political situation, an average person doesn't have that much access to China's resources, and a lot of China is poor. So a lot of Chinese population is unfortunately poor, so they don't really have means to travel. And I don't think that, even though it's a big country, I don't think that we will see huge masses of Chinese people traveling around and demanding everyone to speak Mandarin Chinese. One of the main reasons why many people learn English nowadays, and in the past as well, is because a lot of people are dreaming or planning to move to an English-speaking country. A lot of English-speaking countries are developed with high standard of life, so it is understandable that a lot of people that might not have a good lifestyle in their home countries are dreaming about moving to UK or Australia or US or Canada or wherever. And that's one of the very strong reasons why to learn English. On the other hand, even though China is becoming economically very strong, I don't see a lot of people dreaming about moving to China. I don't see any, actually. There might be some, but I don't see it's ever going to become a dream for many people to move to China, mostly because of the political situation, which is, as we all know, a little bit problematic. One more thing that we have to mention is the fact that a lot of Chinese people speak English. Of course, we have to keep in mind that China is a huge country with huge population, so logically not everyone does, but I would say that educated Chinese people speak English. There are many smart Chinese people who are experts in many fields, so learning English for them is way easier than it would be learning Mandarin for a German, for example. This is one more reason why I don't think that Mandarin is going to replace English, because already so many native Mandarin speakers speak English, so why would they push Mandarin on someone who will never be able to actually learn it? English is not only a language of business, politics, diplomacy, and economy, it is also a language of entertainment industry. Just think about how many of the movies and TV shows and songs you love are in English, are made in the US or in the UK. I would say most of them. This is making English way easier to learn than some other languages because we are surrounded by it all the time. The influence of Hollywood and the entertainment industry in the US is very strong in the whole world. We all watch their TV shows, their movies, we all listen to their songs. And this is an aspect of language that is very important, and many people, when talking about the world language, they always mention the economic and military power of the country where it's spoken, but many people fail to mention how important entertainment industry is when it comes to languages. English became so popular, I would say, partially thanks to entertainment industry and all those movies and TV shows filmed in English. And I honestly don't think that it's ever going to happen with Mandarin Chinese. I have seen it happening with Spanish, for example, with all those telenovelas being popular 10 or 15 years ago. So many people decided to learn Spanish. But I don't see that ever happening with Mandarin Chinese, and not because they don't have talented people who would produce famous movies or talented actors to play great roles. I would say that the main reason is the fact that in order to make a great movie, for example, you have to have certain freedom, for example, freedom of speech, which is something that's not very common in China. So it is kind of stopping them from becoming a superpower in the entertainment industry. And guys, I would love to hear your opinion about this topic. Do you think that Mandarin is going to replace English as a world language in the future? Do you think that in 20, 30, 50 years from now, people will have to learn Mandarin as their second language? Please keep in mind that it's completely okay to disagree with me. I would love to hear someone who has different opinion, and I would like to hear the reasons why do you think that Mandarin is going to replace English. Also, let me know if you have ever tried to learn Mandarin. I haven't. I have read a lot of things about the language, and it was enough for me to say, okay, I'm not smart enough for this. So let me know in the comments what do you think about this topic, and see you next week.